How's everybody doing? Good? All right. So my name's Ноэль Hamilton, and I'm a global creative director at Ogilvy in London. And I guess this is why we're all here, right? To talk about great ideas. Hold on, let me get my notes, because I don't want to ramble. So I don't know if this is a thing in Russia, but we hear this all the time. Great ideas can come from anywhere. And I actually don't believe that this is true. I mean, when was the last time the guy from the mailroom came up with a can-winning idea? I don't think that's ever happened. And I had a CD once who said, great ideas can come from anywhere, but if you want one, come to the creative department. Because creativity is hard. It is. It's really, really hard. And especially today, I mean, it seems like everything's been done before. And I know we all feel that way. However, I think we do need to look at the types of creatives and who our creatives are. So when it comes to creatives specifically, this is something I do actually believe, which is great ideas can come from anyone of any age, which is why diversity is at the heart of creativity. And this is something that David Ogilvy said way back in the day. He said, creativity, I believe, is best found in nonconformists, dissenters, and rebels. But what's happened, oh sorry, gotta go back. But what's happened is that we ad creatives all tend to be the same, right? You can kind of pick us out from a mile away. Especially in the UK, where the only way to break in is to get an internship, but they're unpaid. So you have a lot of interns that are very well off. You know, you don't have a lot of diversity when it comes to young creatives who are breaking into the industry. And you know, now it's more important than ever to expand what our definition of the advertising creative is. And it's all in the name of getting to better ideas. And why? Why is this really important? The first reason is because a creative business only stays ahead of the curve if it constantly strives to reinvent itself. Because the definition of advertising has changed, and it will continue to change. You know, 30 years ago, advertising was a 30-second TV ad or a print ad. Now advertising is an event. It's an invention of a product. It's you know, some sort of VR technology. So what advertising is completely changing, which means that what an advertising creative is needs to change as well. So those who rely on fresh creative thought and diversity of thinking will be the ones who thrive. We need to look at solving problems in a less ordinary way, and this all starts with creative talent that provokes us to think differently. And I'm going to use our internship program as kind of like a big case study here. And what we have at Ogilvy UK is something called the PIPE. And what the PIPE is a 6-month creative internship program with a difference. You can be any age, no upper age limit, so I think you have to be 18. The application process is open to everyone. You don't need a degree. You don't need any experience. You don't even have to know what an ad agency is. We just want to know how creative you are. So we began this program in 2016. We're now actually looking for the interns that will be starting, I think, in November, December. But this is our PIPE class of 2016. And I just want to take you through who some of these people are, because I think it's really interesting what creative backgrounds they came from and then what they ended up doing at our agency. So we have this guy who was a set designer, and now he's a copywriter. And he actually works for me. He's on a couple of my briefs, and he's great. He comes with a completely different mindset, and you'll see a little bit of his work later. We've got this guy who was an artist, straight-up artist, who became an art director. This guy was a filmmaker, and now he's an art director. This guy was a civil engineer, and now he's a creative. And this guy was a poet working at a grocery store, and then he became a planner. So he started in a creative, in the creative internship, and then we realized that as a poet, he kind of understood how people think and he could really delve into motivations of people. And so he was a really good fit in the planning department. So he started as a creative and then became a planner. And then she was a blogger, now a creative, also working on some of my briefs. And this girl is awesome, was a foreign investigator, and now she's an art director. So they bring such an amazing, diverse, creative background. And this leads to ideas that traditional creatives who come up through ad school and things like that, they don't even go there. Their brains don't even go there. So a little bit about the application process is first they send in a piece of creative work. This could be anything. We get a lot of song lyrics, poetry, little short films, things like that. It could be an ad, though. We then narrow it down to 200, and then they have 2 weeks to answer a brief. And then based on those, we have our top 50, and they come in for an interview. And then we sit down with them and choose the 14 that will be in the pipe. So when we narrow it down to 200, we give them a very interesting brief. The first year, we actually bought this car, and we asked them to sell it. So it's a really, really shitty car, and their brief was to sell it. This past year, we had this chair, and the brief was to sell it as anything but a chair. So that got some really interesting things. This was one, the first guy I showed you on the slide before. This was his entry for 2016, so the selling the car. And his idea was, awesome things happen in shitty cars. And this is... So we loved that. We thought that was really cool. So he's now, you know, a full-blown creative. And then I just wanted to show you a few pieces of work that were actually produced. This is a print ad for Hellmann's that won silver and a bronze at Cannes, done by a team that we hired through the pipe. I'm not going to read all the copy, but it's absolutely brilliant. And this person wasn't even a writer before, so this is incredible. And Hellmann's is all about being on the side of food, and this print is celebrating those brave people who first ate kind of gross things that we now enjoy. And so this says, to the visionary who first saw tentacled brain sacs and thought lunch. This is something that we made this year. Google approached us to, oh, you know this, okay, great. So Google approached 9 different agencies to help them advertise one of the things that you could do on YouTube. And so they gave each agency a fairy tale, and they asked us to re-envision it. And so we got Rapunzel, and we thought, oh, this is a great brief for the pipe. Let's see what they can do with it. So we gave it to the pipe, and these 3 girls came up with this idea, a modern take on Rapunzel called Trapunzel, which is featuring a trap music artist, which I didn't know what it was before, but it's like rap, but not. So this is what we produced, and it's, I'm a little biased, but it kind of was one of the favorites of the 9. So I'll play this for you guys.
Try and make my hair collect dust. I brought the boys to the yard, so you cut it all off. Thought I'd lose all my powers, but I blossom like flowers. Hey, flexy, flexy, yay, sexy, sexy, slay. Look at my moves, hair nice full of shampoo. Bad girl from the tip to my room, come through like kicks in my loo. No, they tried to make me ramble, but I'm on things, so I'm on route. I'm free now, yeah, enough of them can't speed down. A lot changed when I let my hair down, yeah. It's gonna be a lot more changes round here. I stay strong when I stumble, get the pack, get the bundles. Yeah, call me Rapunzel. Free now, yeah, enough of them can't speed down. A lot changed when I let my hair down. It's gonna be a lot more changes round here. Change up, switch up the vibe. I stay strong when I stumble, get the pack, get the bundles. Yeah, call me Rapunzel. I can let down my hair, will do it like Princess Leia. Evil way I stand on the hair. I can let down my hair, will do it like Princess Leia. Evil way I stand on the hair. I can let down my hair, will do it like Princess Leia. Evil way I stand on the hair. I can let down my hair, will do it like Princess Leia. Evil way I stand on the hair. I'm free now. Yeah, enough of them can't speed down. A lot changed when I let my hair down. It's gonna be a lot more changes round here. I stay strong when I stumble. Get the packs, get the bundles. Yeah, call me Rapunzel.
So that we let them kind of run the show on that. We shot that in like 3 hours for nothing, calling in favors. In fact, our director didn't even show up, so I pretty much directed it. But no, that was a great example of just letting them run with something that they're familiar with. I wasn't familiar with trap music, but I trusted them and let them run with it, and it ended up turning out really, really well. And this, I probably won't play this whole video, but this is, we were pitching for Formula One, and we relied very heavily on the pipe, and so we ended up recording the creative process. We played this in the pitch and ended up winning.
F1 exploding out of your TV with AR.
We will create simulator sofas.
So your own personal pit crew. F1 spaghetti loops, where the spaghetti hoops are in the shape of the racetrack.
Formula One commentators, boring old white guys, so we're going to jazz it up. We're going to get different commentators from Stormzy to Kim Kardashian and get everyone interested. You can pick whichever commentator from the list. Why don't we target people who get speeding tickets?
Boring watching the same teams compete and win the F1. Let's break down this barrier by creating a crowd-funded team owned by the people.
Formula One is a complicated sport. Why don't we help people understand by making a guidebook for them?
Create an online drama short series based around the drama and scandal of F1.
F1 roast battles. Formula One car park takeovers.
F1 branded graduates. We've got the best in the world. So we've been teaching everyone. So within the app, instead of the driver's view and the track view, we'll create different views so we can get live reactions from their families, the drivers' families.
The fastest pit stop time ever is 1.89 seconds, so why don't we just make all our online content 1.89 seconds long. Fluctuating subscription, so the worse your team does, the cheaper your subscription. VR experience, streaming through games consoles where gamers can race against the actual cars in real time. Smart personalised highlights. Third idea is Uber F1. We want to repurpose the F1 button. Third were other messages. Lapdogs. Thanks, Dustin.
Just a little insight into their creative process. And the idea here with the pipe, I mean, obviously there's a steep learning curve and they need to learn certain things. But we don't want to create cookie cutter creatives. We want to learn from them as much as they learn from us as well. So if they don't fit the mold perfectly, that's okay. And yes, we have had some challenges. But ultimately, I think we've gotten to ideas that we would have never come to otherwise. This is something I thought was interesting. I don't know if you guys saw this interview with Tina Fey talking about Saturday Night Live back in the day. she says, it was only when women became more involved in the whole process, from being present at table reads, writing, and having production roles, that jokes began to emerge that wouldn't have been thought of otherwise. So it wasn't that the men around the table were specifically avoiding jokes that would resonate with women. They just couldn't relate. So once there was more diversity around the table, they came up with ideas that would resonate with more audiences. So that was an interesting example, which is kind of what we're trying to do with the pipe as well. So hiring creatives that are unfamiliar with how advertising works is a bit of a risk. And like I said, there's a steep learning curve. But the potential reward of getting to better, more unexpected ideas is great and outweighs that risk. So one thing that's really important when we hire creatives from different backgrounds is we really have to trust them. So like I said with the whole Rapunzel thing, I trusted them that, you know, a trap music video would resonate, and it did, and it was very successful. This is just a slide about some press that the pipe has gotten. The other thing is that it pays the living wage. So, you know, like I said before, usually internships in the UK, they're unpaid. So this was an opportunity to have lots of people come and apply without having to worry about living. So this is sort of my wrap-up slide, and you know, the way I think about it is, you know, creativity is all up here, and it's all about unlocking what's up here. And you know, great ideas of the world are all up here in the brains of all different kinds of people, and if we want to unlock those ideas, we have to give them a chance to be unlocked in the first place. I feel like this was kind of a sales pitch about the pipe. That's not what it was meant to be. But I just, in these last few years, working with creatives who did not come up in a traditional advertising creative way has just been extremely eye-opening for me and the other CDs that work at Ogilvy. So I really wanted to share that because it's been such a great experience, and we're getting much better ideas. And it's all about, you know, finding people who think about the world in a different way. Sometimes that's scary, but I think in the end it pays off. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Noel. The questions, please. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And my first question is, how can I become a part of Pipe, and how can I get there? Because I know only one creative school, it's Miami Art School, and it's very hard to get here. Hard, not hot. And I have to study there for years. I don't have this possibility. So 6 months are very comfortable to study. And what should I do to get there, to get the pipe?
To get into the pipe.
Yes.
Well, right now it is, you know, we don't sponsor any foreigners, unfortunately, because we just don't have the budget for that. But if there was a way that you could live in the UK for the 6 months and not have to be sponsored, then, I mean, you just have to apply. And I think this year it's already done. I think we've narrowed it down to our 50 already. But next year, absolutely. I mean, we're open to applications from all over the world as long as you can make your own way to the UK.
And is there some kind of test, or I should do some exams, or no?
No, that's the beauty of it. You could be anyone. We had a forensic scientist. We had a guy who was working at a grocery store who just loved poetry. And it's not like you have to show us a book or a portfolio. It's show us something creative. Show us what's in there. And you know, if we see something that, it's all about showing us what's in your brain, essentially. So it could be anything. No.
Sounds very good. Thank you very much.
Так.
Hi, my question is, have you ever had Russians in pipe?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But we're open to
now
it.
you will have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My question is, what's your big idea? You should be born creative or you should learn to be creative?
That's a tough one. I think it's both. Just kind of how, like, the idea of nature and nurture, it's both. I think you do have to be born with at least a love of creativity and be able to recognize creativity. But if I look at my first year in advertising versus now, like, I've learned so much. I've learned a lot about how to be creative, but I think it's more about how to tap into your own creativity. So I think it's in there, but most people don't know how to find it or to how to concept because it's hard. But I think there are tools that you can learn to understand how to dig deeper into your own brain, if that makes sense. That's what I think.
Okay.
By what means at the pipe you unlock this creativity? What methods do you use?
Well, it's tough sometimes because usually what we do is we partner them up, we team them up with a mentor of some kind. And that's sort of where they can ask specific questions just about how things work and things like that. But it's kind of twofold. At first we kind of throw them in without teaching them a lot of stuff because we want that raw thinking. And a lot of times it is so off. I mean, it's just not right. Like the poet, he would write a poem for every brief, and that's obviously not going to work for every brief. So we start off by just kind of throwing them into the deep end and seeing what happens. And then we sort of hone in and we teach them, okay, because a lot of times they don't even know how to be on brief. So we need, and how to present ideas and how to, take someone through it logically. Like here's the inspiration and here's the idea. They don't even know that. And a lot of times they tend to be very broad. So like, we could do something with books. And we're like, okay, well, what do you actually mean? So we kind of help them narrow down to where they can walk into a meeting and have a clear idea. So it starts off kind of raw, and then we work with them. We give them real briefs. First of all, we never give them fake briefs because I don't know what the point of that would be. And then through those briefs, we kind of teach them okay, this is how you come up with an idea. This is how you present it. It could be a poem, maybe, but it needs to answer the brief in this way. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Noel. Hopefully there would be more internships from Russian students and not students to pipe after your presentation. Thank you. Друзья, у нас сейчас состоится большой перерыв.